everybody, welcome to Sheepdog Project. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by AppGuard, autonomous endpoint security for businesses of all sizes. No endpoint protected by AppGuard has ever been breached by malware, by a cybersecurity threat of any kind. We use it because if you're going to be a sheepdog in real life, you need to be a sheepdog on the interwebs as well. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your files. Check it out at appguard.us.
Hard to mess with those guys.
It's very hard to mess with those guys. They are the sheepdogs of the interwebs, which is why we partnered with them.
How do you say interwebs?
I like saying interwebs.
Yeah.
It makes it seem like it's something cooler than it actually is.
The internets?
Yeah. Yeah, internet does not sound. It's like so.
The Twitters?
It's so 1990.
My dad says the Twitter.
The Twitter?
Yeah.
You got to say the Twitter from time to time.
I did have the privilege, nay, the honor of showing him how to look at stories on Instagram and
it was life-changing
Facebook.
for him, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's like, what are these things up here? I'm like, those are stories, Dad. And like some people, that's all they care about. Stories are key. I like stories. I've been traveling a ton for the past couple of months.
Yeah.
To a degree that I've been doing pretty much prison workouts inside of my hotel and doing drop-ins into gyms that I only, even so a lot of the places that I've been, normally, like when we got to go to some great gyms in all over South America and Europe, but I did not find great gyms in some of the places that I've been of late.
No?
No.
So Alaska, you didn't roll in Alaska?
I did roll in Alaska.
You did?
Yeah. But it was underwhelming.
Was it?
Yep. And then I was in a city in Colorado that had a population of like 400 this time of year. And I think like during peak it's like 1,200. So there was not a gym. I did sneak my way into the high school to use their gym. Like they have like a
workout.
the like high school wrestling fitness room. I used that. I don't think I was allowed to be there. I think I was trespassing. Yeah. But I got good workouts in that way.
Hey, you know what? I was going to ask you this in the last episode, and I just thought about this. This is an exercise that I've seen. I hate this exercise.
The burpee.
No. Well, I hate the burpee, but I love the burpee. Because the burpee is, it hurts so bad, but it's so good for you.
Equalizer.
Yeah. So that's my coach's big thing now is he has me do the over rower burpees and the box jump burpees. Yep. And I curse him, and I think about slashing his tires. Or at least breaking his laptop.
Yeah.
Which
coach are we talking about?
Dave Swanky is my coach. Yeah, he's evil.
He's no Dave Hall.
No, he's the other Dave. One might call him the evil Dave. I call him the evil Dave because he makes me do evil things that are painful. Yeah. But this is an exercise. This isn't an exercise, of course, that Dave has me do because it's a ridiculous exercise. I don't think it's a real exercise. This came up recently. Somebody was saying how they do this for punching strength. So, so listeners, you're going to have to imagine this. Tim's going to see what I'm doing. You're going to have to imagine it. So imagine that I'm holding dumbbells like this, and I'm punching with dumbbells like this in a standing position, not on my back like I'm doing single arm press.
It's front deltoid conditioning. It definitely does not help with any punching power.
Number one, it does not help with punching power. Here's the problem that I have with it. Gravity, exactly. Yeah. It's a thing. It's not a theory. It's a thing.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm going to, if I'm holding it here in close, like I just finished a curl, okay, that is 20 pounds of weight on my shoulder joint, on my capsule here. As I extend that, depending on how long my arm is, that now becomes as much as 60 pounds of weight. And it's happening that quick. So all you're doing, you're not building any strength. You're just shocking. You can do the equivalent of if I just hung my hands out like this and had somebody yank on my wrists. Yeah. Because that's all you're doing. You're stressing the joint without building strength.
Do you ever smoke soldiers with...
Oh, just holding the rucksack in front of them like this?
Rucksack? Just their hands.
Yeah.
Like just snappy fingers?
Yeah.
Hold your hands in front of me. All right, let's snap.
Yeah.
And they just look at you. You're like, oh boy, I'm going to take your shoulders. Like, all right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1. And they're just snapping.
Yeah. When
and about 4 minutes later, you see their arms start shaking and their core starts shaking. Yeah. And then they're, I call it the pouty, I want to quit because I don't want to fight in war face starts coming out, where their bottom lip is quivering, and then the next thing you know, their eyes start drooping, their shoulders start slagging, and then you see that they're a communist and they quit.
Because communism is all about quitting.
It is.
It's all about quitting and letting the other guy next to you on the factory line just do it.
That's it, exactly.
That's
because
communism.
It goes against everything.
That's communism in a nutshell. No, Buck Kernan, when he was commander of 1st Ranger Battalion, he went on to become regimental commander.
What's his name?
Buck. William Kernan is his name, but Buck was his nickname.
So, of course, a guy with that name will become the Ranger Regiment commander.
And he looked like Race Bannon. He had like silver hair. So he would do, for battalion PT, he would do usually he would do push-ups, then 8-count push-ups, and then the next exercise would be what he called the finger drill, which was you would put your arms out like this to the side, palms up, full extension, and then you would go one finger at a time, starting with the thumb.
Oh, yeah,
1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2.
Yeah.
So you'd go all. By the time you got to your pinky, your elbows would be like this, drooping. You'd be in excruciating pain, and he'd be up there on the PT stand, like arms
Jesus
out.
Christ, just in a perfect.
Perfect crucifix position. The guy was in.
We're going to hell.
Yeah, I forget what unit he was in Vietnam, but the guy was he was harder than Superman's kneecaps. He was a badass.
I love doing workouts that measure your ability to be successful in life.
Okay.
The burpee is a good example of this. I mean, what happens in life? Do you get knocked down, Mike? Does that happen?
Life knocks you down.
Yes, it does.
A lot.
What about in the Army?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you get knocked down a smidge?
Well, there's a saying, don't lie there with your dick in the dirt.
Yeah. What do you do?
You get the fuck up.
That's it.
Yeah.
So really, the burpee is just life.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get knocked down and then you're going to get up.
Yeah.
And the success or failure will then be determined by the number of times that you can do what?
Get up.
Get up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just like the push-up, just like the burpee, just like the sandbag get up, just like, so like all of those things are like, all right, you just ate my lunch. I've had a pretty rough day. You knocked me down. I got a tooth I need to cough out here for a second. But do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get back up. And then I'm going to hit you with a chair.
And literally when you get up, it's you against the world because gravity is what's pulling you. And that's the world. That's like a microcosm of life.
I don't have the fame of saying burpee is a measurement of life. That came from Jocko Willink.
It's sage advice.
Yeah, he's like, man, the burpee is all about life. You're gonna get knocked down. All you got to do is get back up. Then he's got that grizzly voice, He's like,
oh yeah,
all right,
like he gargles with glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen. In life, you're going to get knocked down. And then all that matters is if you get back up. That's what the burpee is. And that's why we're going to do it. And then like everybody's like, oh my God, Jocko said something amazing. But it's so true. And it's also Jocko saying it. So I totally would do 10,000 burpees if he told me to.
Little known fact about Jocko. So all of his posts on social media, people think all of his posts are in black and white. When you're around Jocko, the world actually becomes monochrome. There's like no color in Jocko's world.
So he's one of my favorite guys. I love being inspired, and there's not a lot of people that inspire me. I love listening to Joe Rogan because I think he's brilliant, and I think he has a perspective that I don't have.
And like Joe's just the opposite. So the world is very psychedelic around Joe. Yeah. And I haven't been around either of these individuals, but being fans of both of them.
Yeah.
This is my summation.
Yep. They're neat dudes that couldn't be more different. Like Aubrey Marcus from On It. Like, while I disagree with like 90% of what he says, I love listening to him because he's got a cool perspective. Lance Armstrong, he and I could not be further apart in our political views, even though he thinks we're further apart in all views. But he and I are pretty aligned in most social things, which he doesn't, which hopefully he'll get. But I love like I think the body and the brain, you grow and you continue to grow until you reach a point where you're not growing anymore, and then you're pretty much just dying. Mm-hmm. And I want to continue to grow. You know, I don't want to be stuck in my ways. I look back at things that I used to think or I used to do and be like, God, man, I was a dumb, you know, like a lot of really terrible things. Like my, I have a nephew with Down syndrome, mm-hmm. and I read a lot of books on eugenics. I was like, man, we can nearly cure cancer with just selective breeding. You know, like think about all the things that we could do, how smart we could get, and how strong we could get, and how much less money in healthcare we'd have to pay. And you know, I was like, we could just tell these people that they can't have kids. You know, this is like 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And
that same argument has been made for in prenatal screening.
Yeah.
That, we can eliminate all this. We can detect everything in utero now, and we can eliminate it.
You wouldn't have a Mozart.
Nope.
You wouldn't have a Beethoven.
Nope.
You wouldn't have an Einstein.
Nope.
And you know what you wouldn't have? You wouldn't have my nephew Tanner. And if you told me that Tanner couldn't do something, I will fucking tear your face off. Like, in a heartbeat. And I would do anything in my power to make sure that that little guy could do anything that he wanted that he could do. You know, and that I could have stayed stuck in my ways, but I want to challenge. You know, I want to grow. And so podcasts are a way to do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love talking to you. Every time I talk to you, like my world grows a little bit. You and I don't agree on a lot of things politically.
We don't. And, you know, and we talk about, and we use this phrase on the podcast a lot. We say, you know, hanging out with like-minded individuals. That doesn't mean we're not an echo chamber for each other. And we've had, in the Sheepdog Team House, so whenever we travel, whenever we're teaching on the road, wherever we're staying is the Sheepdog Team House. We've had some very interesting and borderline heated discussions on various topics in the Sheepdog Team House. Tim and I don't agree on everything. There's a lot of my friends and family members I disagree with on a lot of topics. You know, like-mindedness doesn't mean lockstep. It doesn't mean you're thinking exactly the same on everything.
I think like-minded is the fact that we both want to be challenged, that we both want to grow, we both want to explore, we both want to inspire. That's like-minded.
Yeah.
You know, I think Lance and I are like-minded. You know, I think Joe Rogan and I are like-minded. Jocko's like-minded. You know, Aubrey Marcus is like-minded. You know, and we're aspiring for improvement, and that's like-minded that I want. And you know, I know you're a frequent listener in podcasts. Mm-hmm. With my traveling, you know, I do a lot of books on tape. I do from my phone, and then I have a hard time reading from like my iPads. It just hurts my eyes after hours on planes.
I found that I was my first trip to Afghanistan. I was big into my Kindle, and then after a while, I got to where I didn't want to read on a Kindle or on my iPad anymore. I actually prefer going back to a good old-fashioned paperback book for some reason.
Because we hate trees.
I guess I must hate trees.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I'm back to reading like books, but while I read books, I'll listen to podcasts or I'll do like an hour on, an hour off because you know my flights are 8 hours to Africa or you know South America or to Europe or to Alaska and I will lose my ever-loving mind. I actually like walk up and down the plane listening to books, podcasts, or reading. I really do.
Yeah. I've seen him do it.
The air marshals within the first 20 minutes
get very nervous.
No, they meet me in the back. I have been given more pins from air marshals, you know, like, and I'll usually be walking by and like the first time that they look up at me, you know, is like, okay, 1, you're not drinking. 2, I see where you're seated. Right. 3, I see your musculature, your haircut. Right. I see your bag. I see your pants. Right. I'm just going to go ahead and wink at you so you know that like I'm not scoping out how I'm going to murder everyone on this plane. Right. And then they meet me in the back a few minutes later and they give me a pin. That's how it goes every single time. And Air Marshals, I love you guys. Keep us safe. But not that your job isn't important, but I will tell you, no one will ever take a fucking plane again and fly it into a building while there's an American on board. So that's, hopefully you have...
But we still want you there.
Yeah, we still want you there. But could you imagine what would happen nowadays?
Oh, it'd be sick. Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to fight people to not fight.
Unless it was like specifically, unless it was a flight load of people that were like just going to Burning Man.
Yeah.
That would be about the only one you could take over.
That'd be hard. Dude, I want to go to Burning Man. I seriously do. Talk about growth, and now I don't understand it. Like the people that go there are like, man, I don't like you. You know, like it doesn't make sense what you're doing, and the way that you're living your life is not what I do.
Did you hear about the big hubbub at Burning Man last year?
Well, the guy that ran in the fire and died?
Well, aside from that, no. So Burning Man's all about, free, equal, no boundaries, no barriers. Well, so you have the typical Burning Man crowd, and then you have this subset because now it's become this cool thing for the ultra rich to go do. So they've set up a camp within Burning Man that has security, and the other people aren't allowed into.
That doesn't.
And it totally like violates the spirit. They basically put up a wall.
I thought walls are bad.
Yeah, no, but they put up a wall.
They put up a wall. Wait,
So-
with guards?
Yeah, and
Do those guards have guns?
And then they would call somebody who were to come into their area as being there illegally.
And they kicked them out.
And they kicked them out.
Ah.
Yeah, so it violated the spirit of Burning Man. So
That makes sense. But I still want to go.
yeah,
I just want to get it. I just want to understand it. I just want to see why. I mean, it's a big thing. People talk about it. A lot of people from On It go.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I know Aubrey goes, and his beautiful girl, and I know, it's whatever. I'm all about freedom. Give it a whirl. So, what are some of the podcasts you like?
So I've actually become a big Ben Shapiro devotee. I like Shapiro's because it comes out. He does a lot of them. It's not. I want to say it's bi-weekly. Might be even more than that. And it's 30 minutes, so it's a good drive length for almost everything. Like that's Monday night. I'll listen to today's episode on the way to Jiu-Jitsu tonight because that's the length of my drive. I can knock out a couple of them on a Friday if I'm going to pick up to have my sons for the weekend. And I like Shapiro a lot. I mean, I don't agree with everything he says politically, but I think he's intelligent. He's articulate. He takes the time to research everything that he's going to talk about. He's not just talking out of his ass or off the cuff. And I appreciated his. I think he cuts through a lot of the bullshit on stuff. You know, when people on both sides are talking back and forth about this is this or this is that, and he says, "No, I'm a lawyer, and this is the law as it reads, and no, there's absolutely not a case here, or yes, there absolutely is a case here, and this is the way it is."
I resent how smart he is.
I don't.
He's
resent how smart.
That's
a big word.
Resent's not a big word. He is intelligent and quick and cunning to a way that I could only aspire to be. Yeah. I agree with half, I think, of what he says. He is really, really conservative.
Yeah.
I am not.
No. He's, I don't, you and I are much more libertarian than Shapiro could ever be.
And you're on the conservative side of even where I am.
Right.
Socially.
I'm probably, so if you draw a line from Tim Kennedy being 0 and Ben Shapiro being 10, I'm probably a 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
So I lean towards you. But I definitely am on the conservative side.
One of the things I really love about what he does is there's also, anytime there's an argument, people always try to use emotional leverage. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, okay, are you pro-choice or you're pro-life? Well, first of all, I am pro-choice, but I realize that I believe that a baby starts at conception. Mm-hmm. I think science supports that, and I believe in science. Yeah. Like the same reason I believe that there are 2 genders, because I believe in science. Mm-hmm. I believe that the climate change is a real thing because I believe in science. And people try to pick and choose what science they want to use. And then when they pick what they want, then they assign emotional things to it. It's like, well, what if this woman was raped? It's like, wait, that's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
We're talking about law and we're talking about science. Don't take emotional supporting arguments and try to cloud the conversation. And when you said he cuts through it, he does. And it's one of the things that I also like about Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
His debate, and I don't like. I'm a bag on Joe Rogan for a second. I don't like when he rambles. He just kind of goes on these weird things. Sometimes I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And some people really, that's their favorite part of the Joe Rogan podcast. I like it when he debates. I like it when I get to see Joe Rogan's intellect. I like it when I get to see him being pushed. If you just let Joe be Joe, he's smart, and he's just going to say some cool stuff. But when he's challenged intellectually, when somebody sits there and is like, I don't agree with what you're saying, and this is why. Those are my favorite Joe Rogan podcasts by far. When he's like, well, I didn't do a lot of leg locks, and then somebody's like, well, why would you ignore half the body? And you listen to Joe just stop. He doesn't know what to say. And then he sits there and he's like, well, I don't know why. And then you're like, okay, this is going to get good. And then real meat, real content comes from that.
That Danaher interview podcast was like, that's a Jedi holocron. That's something that should be placed in a time capsule to be listened to 1,000 years from now. It was amazing.
Steven Crowder, he's way too conservative for me, but he's funny as hell.
Yeah.
He is being tried. They're trying. ISIS is trying to murder him, and I like that he, like me, just makes fun of them. He's like, here's a video of the Prophet Muhammad and a historical recreation of Prophet Muhammad's life, and here's his 9 wives. Oh, this one's 9 years old, by the way, and this one's 11, and this one's 13. Everybody's like, oh my God, that's so horrible. And it's like, well, that's historical. Oh, this is kind of awkward. Like, you're calling him a racist, but all he's doing is recreating what we already know to be historically accurate, so I don't know what to do here.
Another thing I love about Crowder is there's nobody, whether it's Samantha Bee or Amy Schumer or anybody that he disagrees with, that he plays a soundbite of somebody that he disagrees with. He has an open invitation for them to come on and defend their position.
Yeah.
And most of them won't do it. And you and I have been on Steven's show. We know Steven. Steven's not the type of person to creatively edit anybody and make them look like a fool, like a lot of people will do.
Jocko, obviously, he is like tip top of my list. Dirty Jobs, Mike Rowe.
Yeah,
you ever listen to his stuff? I
have.
So he and I are the closest politically that we could get. I think he is a hardcore libertarian. I hate Republicans and Democrats pretty much equally, and but he has another cool perspective, especially on education. I love listening to him talk about trade jobs. He's like, oh, that's great. You have $180,000 in student loan debts, and you have a degree in cultural studies, and you have nothing useful to contribute to society, and you owe us almost $200,000. You've just wasted your life. Good luck finding a job. Good luck succeeding in anything. He's like, or you could have gone to trade school for a year, learn how to be a welder. He drives down the road. He's like, hey, do you see that mansion right there? See, it's 11,000 square feet. That guy, he's a master plumber. A freaking plumber. It's like, oh, Mike, you're awesome. And he's just driving that home, just how broken and corrupt our education system is. Yeah. Aubrey Marcus, talk about a guy that I couldn't disagree with more on so many things, but he challenges my views a lot of times, and I think he too is a genius. He is like a savant perspective. He touches things and they turn to gold. He looks at things in ways like I look at something, I'm like, man, I want to pick that up. I want to smash it to see what's inside of it. And he picks it up and he's like, man, this thing's beautiful. I'm like, oh, so you don't want me to throw it on the ground really hard and then step on it, just podcasts are neat. I love how we've had an opportunity to visit different perspectives and how accessible it is. Dakota Myers, the Medal of Honor recipient. He has the Own the Dash, which is a cool podcast. The Own the Dash was, you pretty much are born and you got a date, and then you got a dash in the middle, and then you got your death day and a date. So the only thing that matters is what happens in between there. And he's saying own the dash, and his that motto is his perspective in life now. Having survived one of the most courageous events, I think, in the Medal of Honor recipient's history. He tries now in life to own every second of that day. Yeah. Pretty neat.
We need to have Dakota on.
He was actually going to come today.
Really?
Yeah, I was working out with him,
surprise.
and then something came up, and last minute he had to bounce. But he will definitely be on.
Yeah. And
we'll probably do it in the same studio. He's a neat guy. He's an inspiring guy, and he's absolutely down. What about Lance? Lance Armstrong?
Sure.
In the comment section, tell us who you want us to talk to.
Yeah.
Like it's open. Like I know everybody. It's weird because I'm never like, hey, you want to come on our podcast? Because it's hard to align schedules. It's hard enough to get Mike and I in here.
Yeah, I know. Like just the two.
Like think about that. Like we're trying to get Mike Simpson, who he's a practicing doctor. Like, hey man, can you get out your schedule and meet us here in the studio to record a podcast? And like, I'm someplace stupid trying to get myself killed, and those will have to line. Then we got to get a third person who is probably kind of famous or has done some pretty neat things, or is more importantly doing some cool things. Trying to get those three schedules to line up is difficult.
It's challenging. It is
like getting Congress to do anything. It's challenging.
Well, but the difference is Congress isn't getting anything done because they don't want to get anything done, because they're protecting what they have, and they put priority on that over actually getting anything done. It's not like we're not trying to get things done. We are. It's just schedules conflict because we have other stuff going on. I think one of the great things about podcast is there's something out there for everybody. I mean, there's podcasts literally on every topic you can think of, for every attention span that you can think of, and it's made so much more accessible because it's not like having a radio show or something like that where you had to depend on selling it to somebody in order to get airtime. You can get a voice now if you have a laptop computer. And that's when I started Mind of the Warrior. I had a laptop. I had an idea. I watched some YouTube videos on how to podcast, and I think I subscribed to one like self-help newsletter thing that gave you the ins and outs on what software you wanted to download and everything else. But it's accessible to pretty much everybody. And I think that's just such a great thing because the cream rises to the top, but it's not like it's so competitive that there's people out there that have 100 listeners, but they love doing the show for their 100 listeners, and so they're still going to be there for a long time for their 100 listeners. How many different podcasts have you been on? Do you think
100?
Yeah.
And it's like I have my own podcast. Like, I love that this is us talking, one of my best friends, like-minded, trying to inspire, trying to encourage. We're explorers, we're inventors, we're entrepreneurs, we're warriors, but we don't own thought, and I don't own these ideas. And, I'm an open book anytime. You could ask me to the best of my ability. I will talk this message at every single opportunity and every single avenue, to include every podcast that anybody asks. I love talking to Jocko. I love talking to Joe. I'm going to be doing Lance Armstrong's podcast, and it's just, I want to change the world. Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Have you, the times have come that you have turned down an opportunity to be on a podcast, has it been usually because I'm just too busy right now, or and you don't have to mention any specifics, but has anybody ever said, hey, I want you on a podcast, and you look at who they are and what they're about, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to lend any credence to that, so I don't want to be a part of it.
No. That means I've failed. Like getting blocked on Twitter. I don't want to. If I get blocked on Twitter, I've never blocked anybody on Twitter. You know, like 100,000 something, 200,000 followers. That means my ability to have a conversation, to change minds, to inspire, to have hope, to give somebody hope. I've failed at doing that. I have lost my ability to change somebody's mind. And even if it was somebody that I like profoundly, Charles Manson was sitting across from me and had a podcast, I'd talk to him.
That would be interesting.
Hitler, Mao, Stalin. I mean, guys that like I would want to tear their eyeballs out and then put them on an IV that would help them live for a while and then hurt them more. I would still talk to them because maybe I could change them. Imagine if in 1937 somebody could changed Hitler's mind.
Well, if you would have got him into art school. Yeah, he got turned down for art school.
I mean, he wrote a pretty good book. A lot of people read it. I hate every word of it.
Yeah, a pretty popular book. I don't know if I'd say a pretty good book.
Well, how do you judge good? Like,
yeah,
tens of millions of people on a planet that there were not hundreds of millions, billions of people on. Read it. That's
true. And unfortunately, people are still reading it today, and not for the right reasons. Yeah.
Hate every single word of it, but like, he inspired people post World War I. Imagine if somebody didn't turn off. I mean, even Gandhi at the end, he wrote Hitler a letter and said, hey man, only you could change what's going to happen, the course of what's going to occur, and think about the lives that you're going to save. I fucking love Gandhi. He was also a pro-Second Amendment type guy.
He was a pro-Second Amendment guy. Yeah. People forget that.
The most peace-loving, but I have to go. I have to drive up north.
You got to take off?
Yeah.
All right.
Do we make it?
Yeah, we're doing all right. I mean, this will be a short one, but I think we talked about some good stuff, so I think we can probably wrap it up at that. We've definitely had shorter episodes in the past. And remember that this episode was brought to you by the great people at AppGuard. That's AppGuard. AppGuard.us is the website. Don't forget to check them out for all of your cybersecurity needs. And I am going to leave you with a quote. Have you seen Hostiles yet?
No.
Gotta see it.
Is it good?
Good.
Okay.
Very emotional. Very emotional. And I'm going to leave. So I'm not spoiling anything. The film opens with this quote by D.H. Lawrence. The essential American soul is hard, isolate, stoic, and a killer. It has never yet melted. Remember that and be a sheepdog.
You have been listening to the Sheepdog Project. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Sheepdog Response. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not represent any larger entity, public or private.